Our Flag Means Death has finished its first season on HBO. It's a comedy adventure show about pirates, starring Rhys Darby and Taika Waititi as none other than Blackbeard. It released in batches, 3 episodes each week for the first 2 weeks, and then 2 episodes a week for the remaining 2 weeks, for a total of 10 episodes. It's also a show that evolved quite heavily over the course of its run. It starts off as a straight up pastiche of the pirate genre, of pirate adventures, then morphs into more of a buddy comedy, and then actually becomes a full-fledged rom-com. And I think that evolution is quite unexpected but very entertaining, and the show takes a few episodes to find its tone, to find its stride, and the first 3 episodes are definitely the weakest. The story follows Stede Bonnet, played by Rhys Darby. He's this wealthy, posh landowner who decides one day that his life is boring as fuck, and he runs off to become a pirate captain. Of course, he's totally incompetent, and together with his ragtag crew of misfits, he kind of stumbles through a couple of adventures until he catches the attention of Blackbeard, who ends up actually coming on board to meet him. Blackbeard also happens to be completely bored with his life. He's having this sort of midlife crisis, and he wants to try something new. And he finds Stede Bonnet very entertaining, so the two of them strike a bargain. Bonnet will teach Blackbeard how to be more cultured, more of a gentleman, and Blackbeard will teach Bonnet how to be a bloodthirsty pirate. Now, as I was watching the show, around episode 4 I thought to myself that whilst entertaining, the premise is kind of ridiculous. And then I checked Wikipedia to find out that this was actually a real story. Both Blackbeard and Bonnet, nicknamed the Gentleman Pirate, really existed and knew each other. Of course, a lot of the details of the stuff are made up, including the character dynamics and of course the dialogue and so on, but I was impressed as hell that even just the general setup was in fact based in reality. The show basically hinges on the dynamic between the two central characters, which I thought was done quite well. And as I said, it evolves quite significantly over the course of the show. Both Darby and Waititi are very good and have great chemistry between them. The supporting cast is quite fun and likable. I really enjoyed Con O'Neill as Izzy Hands, who's the right-hand man for Blackbeard, and he becomes the sort of antagonist over the course of the season because of his absolute disdain for Stede Bonnet and his wannabe pirates. The way he conveys his exasperation and frustration and what Blackbeard is doing in the show is just nothing short of brilliant. He was my favorite character, probably. I also like the production design in terms of the costumes, the props, the hairstyles. It really shows that this is an HBO show because they have access to a lot of assets that just look good, because I think a lot of them have been made for movies originally. The ship especially is looking very good, and it's important since we spent a lot of time in it. Now, it isn't all perfect. The budget limitations mean that, for example, a lot of the show is shot in those close quarters, even on the ship, not allowing us to see the ocean. Spoiler, because it isn't there, because it's just a green screen. There are also other flaws. Some of the humor can be hit and miss. Some of the early episodes kind of struggle to find their footing. There's a subplot centered around Jim, one of the crew members, which I thought it starts interestingly, but then becomes very underwhelming and ends up going, I felt, nowhere in the end. And as I said, there are some pacing issues where the show needs some time to really become itself. But I still thought it was pretty decent in the end, and surprisingly wholesome with a lot of heart. So it's probably not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but if you like comedy and you like pirates, you can give it a go.